I went to an Ivy League university in Ontario, Canada right after high school. My marks weren't great, but they were good enough to squeeze me in. I spent most of my time in university partying rather than studying, but still managed to pass all of my first-year classes. My second year I skipped a lot of classes and was very lazy with the coursework. My marks were terrible and I failed a couple of my courses. In my third year, about halfway through, I dropped out and got a job landscaping. I realized it really sucked and I began to regret not trying harder while I was in school. I figured I would apply to jobs that would normally require the degree that I would have gotten. I had spent the few years in school I was easy enough to make the timeline on my resume make sense, and although I dropped out I had a decent knowledge of the area. The field I was attempting to enter is difficult to start out in, and it took a few months of sending applications to get an interview. The company I got an interview with, my now current employer, is an internationally recognized name in the energy sector. I was extremely surprised to get my interview. One of the documentation requirements was university transcripts, and with an hour or two in Photoshop, I had my proof of graduation papers with the other required information, and never heard anything back describing any problems with my records. I ended up going through 3 interviews in the process and received a position. I have now been working with this company for almost years. They provided all the necessary job training, and nobody has ever questioned my education. I entered with a starting salary of $72,500 CDN and received annual raises. Upon hiring me, I was told that the management staff was quite impressed with me through the hiring process and that they usually only hire applicants with minimum requirement of a master's degree. I basically shit my pants every day while in the interview training process, but now I don't really think about it ever. Tell me university friends I faked having my degree. The only people that know I did this are my parents. Thanks for reading.
You should probably stay at that job your entire career. There would be a huge risk of getting caught if you applied for a different company now. It does not really have to be his whole career. If he does 10 or 15
years, he does not have to put his education down anymore. He has more valuable experience and the hell of a reference.
Everything I've ever heard continues to support my belief that the only skills in that matter are bluffing and self-confidence. Now, if you all excuse me, I need to go lie about how smart I am.
This guy on frauds.
This is what we do every day as salespeople. Might cross everybody.
Now I am waiting for it to delete the post. I thought this too, although the Ivy Business School is part of the University of Western Ontario, I won't put it past op to try to skate through on a technicality.
Okay, I see, it's a business school. The way op wrote Ivy League University is misleading.
Much like his resume.
This is excellent advice. I hope op reads that background checking is only going to get easier and more automated as time progresses. It will catch up them.
Came here for this. Did he misspell Ivy, and if so, how can it be an
Ivy League school in Canada?
The name is literally Ivy in Canada. We're a pretty okay, but not top-shelf business school attempts to pump their tires or
He has a Vixer.
Now he must be unfolded himself.
Op, whatever you do, Don TPM this guy your work files. Anyone else curious what university op thinks is Ivy League when we're really Don T?
Have that classification system in Canada.
What I realized about job interviews is that telling the truth actually
AITA helpline does. Unfortunately, this is the reality. Cough Western. I have never applied for a job where, if having a degree is mandatory,
Criteria are down to me to supply my degree certificate. He will always have to put his degree down.
Don't forget connections.
I mean good for you, but it kinda sucks you may have taken someone else's opportunity who actually did put the time and effort in.
Seriously, stupid ass, this story drove me crazy. The school's Western, and I heard a while back they got sued for using Ivy League to mislead people, and had to alter the name. You are correct. That no Ivy League exists in Canada.
Any moment now.
Those patents are secretly unfrauded.
So he's a bit of a fixer-upper.
He could defraud a lot of people with those skills. You gotta admit the op-ed shenanigans are glorious to witness. I am not even mad.
Why didn't I know this sub existed when I worked in sales?
He went to Western.
Well, that's what I thought of as well. Did no one else learn from Mike Ross and his mistakes?
Ivy League is one step above Gravy League here, that's where all of our best partying industry folk come from.
Well, my company reached out to the schools I put down directly to confirm enrollment. GPA and graduation. Let us hope your company doesn't backtrack and dig a little deeper.
I mean, he is getting the job done. It is the company that doesn't care enough to check. He said he spent a few hours in Photoshop. Lol. I do the same thing. My resume just says I attended, which is true.
But that's not just misleading, it is a lie. Lol, and they still couldn't pass 2 ND-year business classes.
There are no Ivy League universities in Canada. There are only 8, and they are all in the United States. So you apparently also lie about attending an
Ivy League University.
or maybe use the extra cash you're making now do online
Classes and get the degree to cover your ass.
Interesting. Ivy never had a job that actually asked me for proof of my degree. 12 years in software, over about 5 different jobs.
Oh yeah, I can do that.
Yup, I am pretty ticked off I didn't learn this 20 years ago. The only thing that matters is saying something with confidence and demeanor.
Waiting for someone to manage to find enough to report him and get him fired now. I heard from a friend of mine that my teacher from way back in 3rd grade, we were in first class, was recently fired because she didn't have her master's degree. She lied for nearly 12 years. I've got a feeling y'all just made this guy pretty paranoid. Lol, poor thing.
You're rethinking of the Ivy Business School, which is just a business
School at Western. Nobody refers to it as Ivy League or is confused by
that other than as a joke. The deal is not in Ontario, it is in Quebec.
HR has entered the chat. Yeah, I don't really care about that.
Yeah, as soon as I saw an actual place of employment I
Knew this was fake, but the discussion following this post has been pretty good, honestly.
But that's queen, that's not queen, you barbarian.
Party school too, but we're the queens more of the Ivy League. Of Ontario University's IMO. Holy shit, you fell out of a cat. Software that explains it.
I feel like you'd know it's Ivy at that point.
Agree to someone with an actual real degree that makes less than 10K euros a year. This is just discouraging to say the least. You didn't know the top Canadian schools are the Ivy League. Modeled after the American Ivy League model, of course.
Ivy lol.
There is no Ivy League in Canada.
Well shit, then I attended college in Russia.
I see what you did there. Here's a not-so-real golden silvery platinum award for you.
We don't have Ivy League schools in Britain, but if someone was to ask me which
universities were on the same tier, I could name them.
Hey, fake it till you make it right.
I was on campus for a day. I didn't do anything. Yes, I am wondering how Op got past that. Did he forge a degree?
Or did his employer never ask to see one?
He should be. He will get caught eventually.
I've never been asked to show an actual diploma, or anything of the sort at a job. Interview, they asked to see my final transcript showing that my master's degree had in fact been conferred. Isn't he named after a donor, Richard Ivy? I think I've made it clear he's prepared to embellish things, to increase his personal brand. In his post, the misspelling of Ivy implies Western on its own too. He patented the way of unfrauding.
Op is from Canada. My CV simply stated the university I went to. I
Never graduated either. It never mattered.
yeah, man, for sure. Did you?
Same here.
I heard from people from Western the school was sued for using the Ivy and branding in an intentionally misleading way. Where they got
The name from the donor doesn't relate to that.
in the US, I believe colleges or universities can only confirm enrollment and
Maybe gradation, but definitely not GPA. Is it different in Canada?
Except you don't know the material. Most of what you learn in school, you rarely use in real-life situations.
and when somebody does inevitably check, whether it be in 5 years or 20 years, he will rightfully lose
His job over it. Cool that it's working out for him now.
But this is not a sustainable plan. This guy would probably be sent to prison for fraud if they ever found out.
Lola would be his only degree.
I'm guessing transcripts suffice if they see them as legitimate.
There is not really a reason for the degree now.
The only job I have ever had that required transcripts was my first one.
After that, no one has ever cared.
In Western S defense, the school is named after Richard Ivy,
The first dean of its business school.
Lying is a tough habit to stop, I guess, Lowell.
It won't be York, you Lowell.
I haven't seen a single job posting for Smaltic in 10 years of software engineering. Just give me a couple of hours in Photoshop.
Well, he did drop out of school and admit to fraud, so maybe Op actually is just a knobhead.
Oh really, I am also from Ontario, Canada, and I suspect I went to the
Same university as Op Ivy, been asked for my transcript or diploma in
almost every interview.
Mike Ross actually passed a bar, though Op just did an hour in Photoshop. It's intentionally misleading. Western S business school is called Ivy. Who wasted gold on this post SMH?
Is Western Ivy? I didn't know there are any Ivy League schools in.
And at the University of Toronto.
How could you attend an Ivy League university in Ontario? The Ivy League is restricted to 8 schools in the American Northeast.
Maybe you should have gotten a degree. You spelled Ivy wrong, and there is no Canadian Ivy League school.
Baskin-Robbins always finds out, man.
Stay and lay low, hope to never be fired or audited, and hope the company doesn't take a sort of merge or transfer or similar ID. Also use the extra money to get the degree.
And that is how I became a neurosurgeon.
No such thing in Canada. I hope he still can cause his lies won't.
Led him too far. He got lucky once, but it may catch up to him.
I did the same. If anyone asks, I say I didn't. He finished college due to financial issues at the time, and taking a computer job at
The beginning of the dot-com boom was the best career
move ever.
He faked being a lawyer, and went to prison for it. Pretty much long story short, with a lot that happened in between. We know the rest of humanity.
Should we tell Op what happens to Mike Ross?
He probably meant it like a top university in Canada.
Ivy League schools don't exist in Canada, only the US.
What do you have your degree in?
This one guy got a job, so no one learns anything ever, and it is so useless lol.
Maybe your attitude is why you weren't getting any callbacks.
Jeff Winger.
If anyone finds out you are getting all that money squeezed out of you for fraud.
Was about to say the same. I am in software too. It feels like when you turn 21 and nobody.
Card so you have it in case you ever need to show it, but nobody bothers.
I remember when a guy became the CEO of Yahoo by bullshitting he was CEO for 4 months before getting caught. Thompson Education or Indexon.
You said this confidently, thus I believe you.
Western doesn't hold a candle to those two, it's just a party school.
Damn it, before seeing your comment I wrote the exactly same thing.
Well, if Ivy had Poutine all over Quebec, and if these schools are a step above that, they may actually be better than the American Ivy League.
As a fellow Canadian who is honest about his credentials and actually graduated with a degree, and would love to make enough money to feed.
There's 3 kids in this shitty economy, fuck you.
Shows you how much a degree is really needed these days, but good.
For you try to keep this job as long as you can. After 10 plus years no one
will check unless you run for political office.
Oh, for reason I was thinking of Mike Rowe. That makes more sense.
I've never been asked for evidence of degrees.
PLO get caught by the first HR audit when people get angry at hide one again and they shape up to prevent breaking news.
I think Op is clearly lying. I can go to any job that needs even a
high school diploma. Will ask me for one and check it too.
I went to go closest we got to calling it that was Harvard of the North.
Watch your boss read this post, figure out it is you, and you get terminated.
Then sued for your earnings, because you received them via fraud.
Holy shit, dude, I work in higher ed and am amazed by the size of your balls and commend you good luck in your career. Canadian here, never heard of Ivy League schools.